So there's like, for example, the city council meeting is being relocated.
Or bicentennial, isn't it?
Yes. So I don't know if that has anything to do with it.
When I got off the elevator, and when I got upstairs, I thought,
What we said?
right place, all the doors were shut, and I thought, oh my God, where am I? This could be another alternate universe.
The city manager moved out too.
Mike, you all set?
Yeah.
Okay, the meeting will please come to order. This is a duly advertised meeting of the Joliet Zoning Board of Appeals. In our capacity, we hear petitions for relief from the strict provisions of the city ordinance. In matters of this type, the decision of this board is final. It does not go to the mayor and city council for any further action. If you disagree with our decision, you have recourse in the court of record. We also hear petitions for variations of land use. In matters of this type, we act as an advisory committee to the mayor and city council, making a recommendation either for or against it. The final decision on land use is made by the mayor and the city council. Would the secretary please call the roll?
Mr. Ferguson? Mr. Graham?
Here.
Ms. Powers?
Here,
Mr. Riggs?
Here.
Mr. Thompson?
Here.
Mr. Hennessy?
Here. A motion to approve the minutes of last meeting? Motion
I
be in
wasn't
order.
here.
So moved.
We have a motion and a second to approve the minutes of last meeting. Call the roll.
Mr. Riggs?
Aye.
Mr. Thompson?
Aye.
Mr. Graham?
Aye.
Ms. Powers?
Abstain, I wasn't
Mr.
here.
Hennessy?
Aye. Okay. Citizens to be heard on agenda items. Anyone wishing to speak regarding items listed on the agenda, except for those under public hearing, will be allowed 4 minutes to speak and address the board. Is there anyone out there that wishes to do so?
And just to clarify, oh, go ahead. I was just going to clarify, these are items items that are
Not on
not
the
public
agenda,
hearings.
on the regular agenda.
'Cause if there's an item coming up under public hearing, you can speak during that time.
I know you're there, Ben.
But how
Okay.
can it be on the agenda?
Any requests for variation from the agenda?
I can't explain
No.
it.
I don't understand.
Okay, under new business, public hearing. Let's, Ernie Bueros, want to come forward, please?
Mr. Chair,
Petition
this
2018-25.
This is petition 2018-25. The applicant is Ernie Barreros, also the owner of the property, 425 North Hickory Street. The request is for a variation for a front porch with a roof. The purpose of the request is that the petitioner is requesting a variation to reduce the required front yard setback from 30 feet to 6 feet, and to reduce the required side yard setback from 20 feet to 10.36 feet in order to construct a full-width wraparound porch with a roof. The ZBA does make the final decision for this type of variation request. Under site-specific information, the lot is 57.75 by 132 feet, or 7,614 square feet. It contains a two-story single-family residence, and the existing zoning is R2 single-family residential. The petition was filed on April 16th of this year. Surrounding zoning, land use, and character. To the north is residential, zoned R-3, which is 1 and 2 family residential. To the east is residential R2, to the east, south, and west residential, zoned R2, and that's single family residential. Applicable regulations are as noted in the staff report. There's also a section in the report dealing with findings of fact in support of a variation. And then under the discussion, the petitioner is requesting a variation to reduce the required front yard setback and to reduce the required corner side yard setback to construct a full-width wraparound porch with a roof. The front porch will be 25 feet wide and 10 feet deep across the front and wrap around to the north sides of the house, and there is an attached survey in your packet. The proposed porch will have a treated wood deck and posts, a wood lattice, fiberglass shingles, and vinyl siding to match the house. The 1898 Sanborn Fire Insurance Map for this area shows that this house originally had a one-story, full-width wraparound porch at this location with similar setbacks. The original porch was removed at some point in the mid to late 20th century and replaced with a gabled portico. Staff is working with the petitioner on revised elevations in order to maintain the historic character. And actually, I'll just mention, I think there was an addendum handed to me today. So there is an attached revised elevations for the porch. The petitioner has been working with the planning staff to revise those plans to better reflect the historic character of the home. And these plans show that the porch has a hipped roof with a pitch slightly greater than 2 to 12, which satisfies the recommended condition in the staff report. According to the petitioner, the existing steps and landing are 7.5 feet wide and 9.5 feet deep, or 9.5 feet deep, with a setback of 6.5 feet from the front property line. Construction of the roof porch will create a front yard setback of 6 feet and a corner side yard setback of 10.36 feet. And several other properties on the block have covered porches with similar setbacks. The proposed porch will not extend into the visibility triangle, which is required for pedestrian and vehicle visibility at the intersection of Hickory Street and Bridge Street. A plat of survey is attached, and if the motion is to approve, the conditions included would be that, number one, the porch shall have a hipped roof with a minimum 212 pitch and a maximum 412 roof pitch in order to maintain the character of the house and neighborhood. And that concludes staff's report.
Thank you. I must swear you in, sir. Do you swear, raise your right arm, do you swear the evidence you're about to present is the truth by penalty of law?
I do.
Name and address.
425 North Hickory, Joliet, Illinois.
Okay. And have you discussed the conditions with the petitioner? Mike?
Yes, staff has worked with, and the petitioner just recently provided these revised elevations. So I would suggest that the condition remain, because I believe there's maybe some
No, I know,
small,
trying to- yeah,
some
but
small changes that are being made.
He's aware of them, right?
Yes.
Okay. Are there any comments you'd like to make, sir?
No, nothing.
Are there any questions by the board? Any comments? Anybody in the audience wishing to speak in favor of this petition? Is there anyone opposed? The chair closes the petition to the floor and asks the board for discussion and a motion.
I'll move for approval, Mr. Chairman. I think Mr. Barrios is going to turn a nice-looking house into an even better one. I wish you the best.
That's it.
We have a second?
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the petition. Call the roll, please.
Mr. Thompson?
Aye.
Mr. Graham?
Aye.
Ms. Powers?
Aye.
Mr. Riggs?
Aye.
Mr. Hennessy?
Aye. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much, sir.
Okay, petition 2018-26, David and Brenda Miller.
Mr. Chair, petition number 2018-26, the applicant is David and Brenda Miller. The owner is also David and Brenda Miller. Location is 611 Buell Avenue, and this request is a variation to construct a new detached garage. In order to reduce the required setback for a detached garage which faces an alley from 10 feet to 8 feet, and with the purpose of constructing the new detached garage. The ZBA makes the final decision for this type of request. Under site-specific information, the lot is approximately 0.24 acres. It contains a 2-story single-family residence and an existing 14 by 20-foot detached garage. The property is currently zoned R-2 single-family residential, and the petition was filed on May 8th of 2018. Surrounding zoning in all directions of the property is R-2 single-family residential, and applicable regulations as well as the findings of fact, criteria for supporting a variation, those are all contained in the staff report. Under discussion, the petitioner is requesting a variation to reduce the required setback for a detached garage facing an alley from 10 feet to 8 feet. The proposed 2-car garage will be 24 feet by 24 feet with a hip roof and wood siding, and it would replace the existing 1-car garage. The existing garage and the detached garage on the adjacent lot to the east are both set back 8 feet from the alley. The owner would like to construct this new garage with the same setback in order to continue to match the neighboring garage. Several other detached garages that face the alley also have a setback of less than 10 feet. A plat of survey and elevations are attached, and that concludes staff's report.
Thank you. Do you swear the evidence you're about to present is the truth under penalty of law?
Yes.
Name and address, please.
David Miller, 611 Buell Avenue, Joliet.
Any comments you'd like to make?
I got horrible hearing, excuse me.
Would you like to say anything?
No, just, we, just would like to match our neighbor's garage and kind of make them parallel, just as you can see in that picture. Kind of keep it the way it is. Alley's 21 feet, nobody has any issues, with hitting anything. We all drive full-size trucks, and it seems like it's, reasonable.
Okay. Want to borrow one of my hearing aids? I could.
I got mine,
Oh,
but
you
they don't
got
work
yours
so
in?
good. Not
I
ones
thought
like
I was
this,
picking
anyway.
something up here. Any comments or questions by the board?
I have a question. Is that carport gonna stay, or is that carport going, that carport is yours attached to?
Yeah, exactly, and that was part of the problem. Somebody actually hit the carport and moved the whole garage, shifted the garage like that. So the carport's going away, and it's just gonna be the 2.5 car garage.
Thank you.
Any other comments? Anyone in the audience wishing to speak? There it is. I assume you're in favor. Do you swear the evidence you're about to present is the truth under penalty of law?
I do. I'm Bob
Your name and
Noctree.
address.
Thank you. I'm Bob Noctree. I live at
You ought to
614,
have it up here where ours are. You're here more often.
614 Western Avenue. I'm the zoning coordinator on the Kappa board, and Kappa has no objection to this petition. And I agree with the owner that it is probably going to make the alley better than it is now. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Anyone else in favor? Anyone opposed? Chair closes the petition to the floor and asks the board for discussion and a motion.
I'll move to approve.
I second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the petition. Call the roll, please.
Mr. Graham?
Aye.
Ms. Powers?
Aye.
Mr. Rakes?
Aye.
Mr. Thompson?
Aye.
Mr. Hennessy?
Aye, thank you.
Thank you.
Grace Methodist Church, anyone here? Petition 2018-27.
Mr. Chair, petition number 2018-27, the applicant is Grace United Methodist Church, also the owner of the property. Location is 1718 Avalon Avenue, and this is a sign variation request in order to increase the maximum allowable sign height from 11 feet to 25 feet 9 inches, and to increase the maximum sign area from 20 square feet to 98.84 square feet in order to allow a wall sign for Grace United Methodist Church. The zoning board makes the final decision for this type of variation. Under site-specific information, the lot is approximately 4.5 acres and contains a 2-story building and accessory uses for Grace United Methodist Church. In 2000, the zoning board approved a variation to allow a 50 square foot illuminated monument sign at the northwest corner of this property. The property is currently zoned R-2 single family residential, and this petition was filed on May 9th of 2018. Surrounding zoning, land use, and character, to the north, east, and south, all the properties are zoned R-2, which is single family residential, and to the west, the properties are zoned residential R-1, and that is single family residential. Applicable regulations, as well as the criteria for granting sign variations, is as noted in the staff report. And under the discussion section, again, the petitioner is requesting a variation to increase maximum sign height and to increase the maximum sign area in order to install a non-illuminated wall sign for the church. The new sign will replace the existing cross and lettering, which is currently on the west face of the church, and there are attached photos in your report. In the R2 zoning district, non-residential uses such as churches are allowed signs with a maximum height of 11 feet and a maximum area of 20 square feet. The proposed sign will have a height of 25 feet 9 inches and a total area of 98.84 square feet. The proposed sign will have a height The church requests a sign of this size and location so that the sign will be visible from Larkin Avenue. The proposed sign will be smaller in area and lower in height than the existing sign and cross. The sign graphic and site plan are attached, and that concludes staff's report.
Raise your hands, please. Do you swear the evidence you're about to present is the truth under penalty of law? May I have your names and addresses?
I'm Cindy Caswell. I live at 1008 Valencia Drive in Shorewood.
Okay, do
And
you want
this
to
is-
lower that microphone so you can talk on? There you go.
I'm Kathy Kazak, Kathy's with a C, 23754 West Rolfe Road, ROLF Road in Plainfield.
Okay, and are there any comments you'd like to make?
Well, for one thing, the sign that we have, I don't think you can't see it in the photograph, but back in '61, we became Grace United Methodist Church, and we have kept Grace Methodist Church for almost 50 years without adding the United to it. So we would really like to add United to the name of our church. And
And the flame, too.
and we'd also like to add a flame to the cross. And this one is about 25 feet high, and that's pretty large to add a flame to. So we would go to the smaller size, as was on the board.
Okay. Who designed the new sign?
It's the Grace United Methodist Church logo website.
Oh, okay.
This is the church's logo with the cross and flame. We
Is that
varied
sort of a national symbol of the church now? or-
Yes, yes. We varied a little bit because we're going to keep our original cross and have it
Oh.
cut down. So the cross doesn't exactly match what they have, but it's close, and it will be done by Great Signs.
Okay. Any comments by the board?
You answered a question, I think, for me. The cross that you have up now, you're cutting that down, and that's the cross we're gonna see on the side of the church?
Yes,
Or on
so-
on the side here with
Yes,
this,
so it won't extend above the roof
We're gonna have
line.
it painted black,
and you have it painted black.
and
Okay, and the letters,
the lettering will be black.
Black.
but I mean, the letters that you now have on the side of the church, those are just gonna go
There's-
away?
Yes,
Yeah.
because we can't match them up to add United to it. And they don't show up. So they're the
Yeah, I
silvery
see that.
Yeah.
The limestone is all deteriorating. So the limestone, you can see our fence around there in case it falls. That has to be replaced, and Adler Roofing and Siding is replacing that with a steel siding in panels. You can see it a little bit better here, that are approximately the same size as the panels of limestone.
So it won't be limestone
It
anymore?
won't be limestone.
What does the,
A cheaper option.
is that a flame on there on that design, to the left of the cross?
Yes,
And I suppose that represents the fires of hell or something?
I hope not.
Well, I'm worried about voting on this. I want to make up my mind of how I'm going to swing on this vote.
You know, we didn't look up what the flame actually represents, but
That's what,
maybe,
Okay.
maybe Pentecost,
Thank you, ladies.
or the flame
Any
of
further
roses.
questions? Is there anybody in the audience wishing to speak in favor? Is there anyone opposed? Better not be. Okay. Chair closes the petition to the floor and asks the board for discussion and a motion.
Motion to approve.
A second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the petition. Call the roll, please.
Ms. Powers?
Aye.
Mr. Riggs?
Aye.
Mr. Thompson?
Aye.
Mr. Graham?
Aye.
Mr. Hennessy?
Aye. Thank you, ladies.
Thank you very much.
Okay, Ketone Acquisitions. Anyone here? Okay, petition 2018-28.
Mr. Chair, petition 2018-28, the applicant and owner is Ketone Acquisitions LLC. Location is 3200 Shanahan Road, and this is a request for a variation to allow additional truck and trailer parking that is not located along and adjacent to the long sides of the main warehouse building. As per the applicable code for tractor-trailer parking, spaces are only allowed along the long sides of an industrial warehouse building. The Zoning Board of Appeals has the final review authority on this request. Under site-specific information, the 22.5 acre subject site comprises one lot within the Ketone Business Center subdivision. A 252,000 square foot warehouse and distribution building is currently being proposed. The existing zoning is I-2 General Industrial. This case was filed on May 11th, 2018. Surrounding zoning, land use, and character is I-2 zoning in all directions. To the south and east are actually undeveloped, and to the north and west, those are developed as industrial. Applicable regulations are as noted in the staff report, as well as the specific findings of fact that are the criteria for supporting a variation. Under discussion, the approval of the requested variation on tractor-trailer parking will allow the future building space and site to be competitive in attracting and retaining an industrial user. The additional trailer parking area, as shown on the site plan, will allow the site to add 222 additional spaces beyond what the code would permit. In total, the site would maintain 291 trailer spaces and 165 employee parking spaces. This particular building is at a disadvantage due to the west side of the site being devoted to employee parking. In addition, the proposed location for the additional trailer parking area is located within an irregular shaped location of the lot that would be difficult to develop otherwise. Its location within the industrial subdivision is such that it will be well screened by the building and future landscaping. The proposed industrial user is not known at this time. And that concludes staff's report.
Thank you. Gentlemen, you want to come forward, please?
Good morning, or good afternoon, Mr. Chairman.
Let's
Tom
swear you in,
Osterberger, 111 North Ottawa Street.
Let's swear you in. Do you swear the evidence you're about to present is the truth under penalty of law?
I do.
Names and addresses.
Tom Osterberger, 111 North Ottawa Street, Joliet, Illinois.
Kyle Schumacher, 171 West Wing Street, Arlington Heights, Illinois.
So Mike's report is accurate. The only, you guys probably didn't see it, on Tuesday we received final plat approval. And the reason why this particular lot is strange, it's on its side this way, but the narrow end goes down to the river. So when Ketone developed the property, there was a commitment to the city that the land would be donated for the bridge. When the city called upon them to do it, it created this kind of long wedge, and it left us with this kind of low part down towards the river. So building a building down that way is impractical, and we're just seeking to get the additional use out of it. A perfect spot for it. You can't see it in any direction unless you're standing in the water in the river.
Okay. Do you have any comments, sir?
I think the only thing to add to that is that there's a significant grade difference between where the building sits and where the river is, which in addition to it being narrow and coming to a triangle, it's hard to put a building on that large of an elevation change.
Okay. Are there any questions by the board? We have no conditions here, is that correct, Mike?
That is correct.
Any comments? Okay, anybody in the audience wishing to speak? Anybody opposed? Chair closes the petition to the floor and asks the board for discussion and a motion.
I'll move for approval.
It makes sense to me. I'll second.
We have a motion and second to approve the petition. Call the roll, please.
Mr. Riggs?
Aye.
Mr. Thompson?
Aye.
Mr. Graham?
Aye.
Ms. Powers?
Aye.
Mr. Hennessy?
Aye. Thank you. Well, we're rolling right through this. Okay, West End property. I assume that's you, gentlemen. Petition 2018-29.
Mr. Chair, petition number 2018-29, the applicant is West End Property Group LLC. They are the contract purchaser of the property. The property owner currently is Estela Rios of 210 Collins Street, and Ruben Figueroa, who owns 212 through 220 Collins Street. The location is 210 through 220 Collins Street. That includes a number of individual parcels. The request here is a series of variations in order to allow the construction of a 7,140 square foot medical clinic. The variations being requested are as follows. One, to reduce a major street setback from Collins Street center line from 80 feet to 41 feet 8 inches. Two, to reduce the rear yard building setback from 25 feet to 17 feet. Three, to reduce the landscaping area width adjacent to Collins Street frontage from 10 feet to 8 feet 8 inches. Four, to reduce the landscaping area width when when adjacent to residential from 15 feet to 5 feet. Five, to reduce the required off-street parking space amount from 48 to 32. Six, to add a wall sign that does not face a street front. And the last one, initially requesting a setback reduction from 10 feet to 5 feet. I'll get to that in a minute, but they have since addressed that by amending the site plan, and there will no longer be a need for that final variation request. The Zoning Board of Appeals has the final review authority on this request. Under site-specific information, the 5 existing parcels comprise a footprint of 231 feet by 110 feet, or a total of 26,400 square feet, and they currently include 5 residential houses. A zoning reclassification request was approved to zone the properties from their existing R-2 single-family residential and R-4 multifamily residential zoning to the B3 general business zoning on June 7th of 2016. This petition was submitted on May 11th of 2018. Variations were approved by the Zoning Board of Appeals on May 19th of 2016 to allow a 2-building, which would have been a one multi-tenant, 1 drive-through restaurant commercial development for the following variances. Reducing a major street centerline setback from 80 feet to 49 feet 11 inches for building A-B and to 43 feet for building C. The other variances that were previously approved was to reduce a rear yard setback for building C from 25 feet to 15 feet 2 inches, to reduce a landscaping area when adjacent to residential from 15 feet to 5 feet, to reduce the required off-street parking spaces from 34 feet to 26 feet, and finally to reduce the minimum required setback for a monument sign from 10 feet to 0 feet. Surrounding zoning, land use and character, to the north is a commercial parking lot zoned R2 residential. To the south is a commercial property zoned B-3 general commercial. To the east is a residential area, and that's a combination of R-3 and R-2 zoning. And to the west, across the street, is a combination of residential and commercial development zoned R-4 and B-3 general commercial. Applicable regulations concern major street setbacks, general business district requirements, landscape and screening regulations, off-street parking regulations, and sign regulations. Not noted in the report, but it goes without saying, there are a number of criteria for granting reductions as well and granting variations. The petitioner is requesting approval of a series of variations in order to allow construction of a medical clinic that specializes in kidney dialysis along the Collins Street commercial corridor. The conceptual site plan, which is attached, is for the proposed development, showing the layout for the building footprint, parking lot, and fencing buffer. There are 2 curb cuts proposed for Collins Street, which will require IDOT approval. The proposed building, also attached in your packet, will meet the city's non-residential design standards, which require a full brick and/or stone material on the veneer, on the facades. The site will be fully landscaped as per the landscape ordinance, and a new 6-foot-high fence will be installed along the east property line adjacent to the existing residential properties. Staff has serious concerns about the required parking space variation that is being proposed for the medical use. The proposal from 48 required spaces to 32 spaces would reduce the amount of required parking by 33%. As per city code, medical offices are to provide 1 parking space for every 150 square feet of gross floor area. The Fresenius Kidney Care Center at 721 East Jackson Street in Joliet maintains the required parking space counts, as does recent medical construction, clinic construction, such as Tharp Medical at 1530 West Jefferson Street, the Physicians Immediate Care Facility at 800 North Larkin Avenue, and the future construction of an additional Physicians Immediate Care at 2343 Droughton Road. The petitioner has provided a parking assessment plan to support their request, which is attached to your staff report. In addition, staff was not presented with a hardship as it pertains to the reduction of the required setback for the monument sign, as there is adequate space available. As I mentioned earlier, as an addendum to your current packet, we passed out today an addendum. They in fact have revised the site plan with respect to the sign, the monument sign, and are now able to meet the 10-foot required setbacks. So that variance is no longer necessary, and the sign plan and new site plan is now attached as well. As far as conditions, if the zoning board desires to approve all of the aforementioned variations, the following conditions would be included. One, that a landscape and screening plan be submitted as part of the building permit plan that meets the plan set that meets the city ordinance. And two, that building elevation plans be submitted as part of the building permit plan set that meets the city's non-residential design standards ordinance for a commercial quality masonry building. And that concludes staff's report.
Thank you.
Y'all?
Anyone that's going to speak? Do you swear the evidence you're about to present is the truth under penalty of law?
I do.
Names and addresses.
John Murphy, 30 North LaSalle, Chicago, attorney for Aetna Development applicant.
People are going to be speaking? We have to have your name recorded here, sir. Yeah.
George Haynes, 200 West Madison, Chicago, Illinois.
David Mangurten, 1121 Lake Cook Road, Deerfield, Illinois.
Lynn Means, I'm a senior transportation engineer with Gewalt Hamilton, 625 Forest Edge Drive in Vernon Hills, Illinois.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. As mentioned, my name's John Murphy. I'm the attorney for Aetna Development. I think everybody here knows of Aetna and the work that it's done in this area. We've had very successful TIF agreements with the city to help redevelop this area. This particular property, as you're aware, is just north of AutoZone. One little footnote to the staff report: since the date of our application, we have closed on the property, so we own the homes, which is an indication of our commitment to this project. We are proposing to develop this property for a 12-station DaVita Kidney Dialysis Center. And unlike our other projects, this property is not in the TIF district, so it will be completely privately funded with no public assistance, with an investment of approximately $5 million. We, as staff has indicated, we come before the board asking for its approval of a number of variations. The most significant one, where we're going to spend the most of our time discussing, is the parking variation. I will address that on an overview basis and then turn it over to our witnesses. I sent Mr. Torrey a few days ago additional exhibits, which I hope are now part of the public record. Exhibit 1 is the record of proceedings from the Illinois Health Facilities and Services Review Board. And as the board has seen from the record of those proceedings, DaVita has made application for approval from the state for this 12-position facility, and the state has approved it, noting that there is an acute need for this type of service at this particular location to serve a population that needs the service both now and in the future. The application contained a great deal of data which supports the need for this facility at this location. And everybody's familiar with the location and how important being able to serve patients with kidney dialysis is. This is a great location for this particular land use to serve the growing demand for dialysis services. The second exhibit that we've presented is an affidavit of lease from Mr. Haynes. We have a firm lease with DaVita for a minimum term of 15 years with 3 5-year options, which tells the board that this is a serious commitment by a Fortune 500 company to this area. So a potential 30-year commitment for this facility. Not sure that I'll be around at the 30th year, but it is evidence of a significant commitment to serve the need in this area. The third exhibit that we've introduced is simply a Google Earth map of the Frequentia site, and as we'll discuss, it's to show that it's not a comparable site to what we're proposing. As the board is aware, this is part of the city's goal to convert platted residential lots to commercial service lots, which always produces challenges in terms of being able to have an effective land use that will serve the need. We will have 3 witnesses testify. David Mangerton, who is the project architect, who will present evidence regarding the overall site plan. He'll speak about how we've been able to resolve the problem with the monument sign, and we are in acceptance with the conditions recited by staff. Lynn Means will provide expert testimony relative to the traffic issue and indicating that based both on empirical evidence and national information, the parking that is provided on the site is more than adequate. Finally, Mr. Haynes himself will testify as to the business plan and the relationship with DaVita, and probably most importantly for our presentation today, the fact that DaVita, who operates several hundred of these facilities, has signed off on our parking plan. I'd like to set the stage by talking to the board members regarding 2 related concepts relating to hardship and what I'm going to call common sense. Staff has indicated that this property is defined as a medical clinic. What I'd like to do is just read that definition. The definition in your ordinance is a medical clinic is an establishment where human patients who are not lodged overnight are admitted for examination and treatment by a group of physicians, dentists, and similar professionals. The DaVita facility does not really fit into this definition because there are no doctors on site to provide examinations. There are no treaters who will be at the facility. Now, for sure, we have professionals who serve the facility, but it is not a comfortable fit in terms of the definition, and that leads to what we consider to be the hardship and the need and the common sense acceptance of our position relative to parking. We all know what happens when we go to the doctor's office. The doctor's late. Patients are overbooked. We wait. A medical examination takes a longer period of time. Doctors' offices are built-in delays because patients don't get booked in a regular, easy fashion. And all sorts of emergencies can happen, a sudden need for somebody to come in and receive treatment. All of these things bundle up to add up to the conclusion that there should be more parking than you might otherwise because there's overflow. None of these variables are present in the case of a dialysis treatment center. In our case, there are 12 positions. We all know how dialysis works. The treatments vary from 3 to 5 hours. The appointments are carefully booked by DaVita to make sure people are there and able to sit on that lounge chair, get saddled up, and get flushed. That's the way it works. The evidence that we've got shows that even assuming that every position was filled by somebody who drives to DaVita, parks the car, leaves the car there for 4 hours, and the staff that we have more than enough parking. But that brings me to that should in and of itself satisfy the requirements for a variation in our view. But it leads to the other point of common sense that we would ask this board to consider when in response to staff's expression of serious concerns. People who are undergoing dialysis have a serious health condition. They may be old. They may be infirm for other reasons. They may be in a sheltered or a professional care facility. DaVita's experience, as borne out by our evidence, is that a high percentage of the patients will be driven to the facility from the care agency, from a spouse, from a family member. They'll be there, they'll be dropped off. It's not realistic to expect that the spouse or the medical facility is going to stay there for 4.5 hours waiting for the patient to be served. So a high percentage are going to either be driven to that facility, take public transportation, you all know the pace is right there, and receive their treatment, then somebody will come back to pick them up. So in our view, the ordinance requirement for parking for a medical clinic is overly broad for this particular land use because it doesn't share those characteristics of a medical clinic. We control who comes in, we control how many people come in, and normal human behaviors tell us that people are going to get to this facility other than by driving themselves, parking their car, and undergoing the service for the several hours. So that's kind of the overview we'd like to present. We read the staff report saying that there are serious concerns. They did not articulate those concerns, but we think that whatever they are, we have the ability to demonstrate to this board that we are entitled to the variations. And with that overlong introduction, I would turn it over to our first witness, who is architect David Manning.
Now, I don't think there's any need to discuss the sign because that's no longer an item. That's been resolved.
That's been resolved, and it
concerned.
was a setback versus height issue. That one's all over.
And I do agree with you that the conclusions you've made about the parking adequacy, because it's a different operation than those that were mentioned and referenced on Jackson, Jefferson, and Larkin, that you were accurate in that also. So if you have someone else that wishes to address the board, we're more than happy to hear it.
I have a question
Well,
for
if that's a
Mr.
sneak
Murphy.
preview, you're going to vote yes, we're happy to suspend,
question.
but unfortunately, this is our only opportunity.
Well, you don't have any opposition sitting out there unless the city manager himself is opposed.
Question, Mr. Murphy.
Yep.
Give me a number. At maximum traffic, maximum time, when the most amount of people will be there seeking treatment, how many cars in the parking lot? Your guess. Just give me your best guess.
Well, let's do the math. 12 positions. So that's max. Now, we know from the company that it's rare that you're 100% booked, but let's assume that. Can I go to my cheat sheet? Do you mind?
Oh, yeah, go right ahead. Notes are fine here.
So that's 12. DaVita has 6 to 8 people on a shift.
Okay,
So,
20, we're up to-
on the assumption that they all drive, that's
Okay.
20.
And some of those people are just dropped off, isn't that correct?
Well, yeah, sure, employees and, you know, they
There
take
may not
public
be any
transportation.
parking there at all.
Yeah, so I think it's pretty simple arithmetic, given the fact that we cannot overbook, right? We can't, because there's only 12 positions. A lot of, you know, these people have tough health problems. It's, I don't know if you've had any relatives who have to go through that, but it's no fun. And the spouse, the son or daughter, there's no reason to stick around for 4.5 hours. So there's not gonna be, those people aren't gonna park. I've got a mother-in-law who has this, she, way up north, and the thing's called Sedgebrook, a senior facility. They've got the private buses. They drop them off, they come back. It's, you know, it's booked. So there's nobody parking there. The patient, my notes indicate that there's between 6 and 12 employees at any one time.
How many shifts would you have?
Uh,
What are the hours of this?
They ordinarily work 2 shifts, the days.
So what are the hours? What would the hours of
I
this
think it's, what,
clinic
7
be?
till 6 or something like that, George? Yeah. It's not a 24-hour operation.
Right, but so, and there's 2 shifts in that 7 to 6, that's
Yeah.
what you're telling me?
Yeah, 2
So there
shifts.
could possibly also be some overlap with the parking from employees coming, employees leaving, correct? Yeah.
Potentially.
Yeah.
But
Okay.
even with overlap, there's a lot extra.
You know what? I think this is very needed. I have an uncle who has a problem with that, so this is needed in that area for sure. Okay? I'm for it.
Any other comments by the board?
I have one comment. I don't understand. I'm looking at, now I'm in the parking, and I'm looking at the parking, and I'm seeing in each row, when I counted, I didn't count exactly what you did, and then I see TYP, whatever that is. I'm looking at this
They're all
thing.
numbered, the amount of space.
Right, no, I know, but I'm looking at this. If you count the spaces, that's only 8. But that TY, whatever, that looks like 2 spaces right there, am I correct? I'm looking at this screen. I guess I'm not
Maybe
understanding
that's a
it.
memeasurement of the space for typical 9-foot
Well, then that would
space.
only be 1 space, so that's still only 8
How many
spaces.
spaces are in the diagram, Mike?
10 plus 14 plus 8. Do you see it? up
But
there?
yeah, but as I count the actual space, I'm seeing the numbers. As I count the spaces, they don't work, it doesn't work out that way.
There's 32 parking
2, 3,
spaces
4,
that are,
5, 6, 7, 8. There's 8 in that first row. You have 10 indicated. Where are the other 2? I don't see them. Yeah, there's 8. And there's 12 in the second row, and there's 7 in the other one. And I'm also wondering about the number of handicap spaces. I only see 2. I mean, if the patients are that ill and they need that, I mean, do you think that there should be more handicap spaces, I guess is what I'm wondering. Also, for this type of clinic, I didn't count, I counted 27 spaces. I did not count 32.
there are 32 spaces.
Yeah, I think what you're seeing with the 9, that's a measurement of the parking space.
Right, I'm going 1, 2,
I think you have to start like right here.
that's a parking space?
Yes.
If I can just.
Okay, all right, then I'm sorry, my mistake.
Yeah, I was just going to clarify, if you look at the diagram on the screen, the circled numbers are the number of spaces in each row.
I see that. I was actually counting the spaces, and that's not exactly what I came up with, but okay, all right, my mistake. I mean, I'm just saying. This, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 spaces. A tiny point, but, here,
She's skipping
Mike,
the edge.
see this is what I'm counting. This is what I'm
Skipping the
counting.
edge.
If I count them up, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Not 8. That's what I count.
No, there's one right there.
That counts
Missing
as,
one.
this is a space?
Yes,
This?
Yes.
This is landscaping, no?
no, that's a space.
This is a space.
Yes, that dimension is throwing you off.
Okay, and so
That's
this is
just
like a
the 20.
driveway? What is this solid line then?
That line those are dimension lines, so it's showing
Okay,
from here to here is 20 feet,
all
from
right,
here to
then
here.
it did throw me off. Okay,
Yeah.
thank you. Thank you.
You good, Denise?
I'm good.
Okay.
I'm good, thank you. Sorry about that.
Mr. Murphy, anything else?
Everybody's here to answer questions if you'd like. Mr. Haynes indicated that upon approval, we're going to get to work right away on this project, so it's a go
Well,
project.
When do you expect it to be open?
Probably spring,
After
George?
we vote.
That's true.
Yeah, I mean, we'll start this fall, you know, and it targets a spring 19 start, open.
Mike, does staff have any rebuttal to the comments that were made?
Well, the only thing is, as we indicated in the staff report, we did have some concerns because it's a significant reduction. It's not 1 or 2 spaces. It's not even half a dozen spaces. It's 33% of the city's parking requirement, which is, not normal, not typical.
This isn't a normal operation though either, like a medical clinic, so.
Well, if you're, you are charged with making the findings of fact that are, make the record. And if you're comfortable with the testimony today and that you feel that those standards have been met.
We'll find out. Well, Mr. Murphy, I hope Murphy's Law does not prevail here, for your sake. Does anyone else
No, I
wishing
think,
to make any comments?
I think the board understands our commitment to this area of town
Do you have
and
any
our
other questions
willingness
you'd
to
like
move
to ask?
forward.
No, I don't have any other questions.
First, I think the board is satisfied with the comments that were made, unless some of you gentlemen have some comments you'd like to make. City manager, do I have to swear you in, or do you going to? I think by law I have to.
Okay,
Do you swear the evidence you're about to present is the truth under a penalty of law?
I do.
Name and address.
David A. Hales, live at 1007 New Fairfield Drive here in Joliet.
That may be the last time you ever have to answer to me.
Yeah, good afternoon. Sorry I came in just a little late, but I did want to just echo some observations I've had in my career as a city manager that kind of get back to some comments staff has made. And that is, I think and again, it's just a point for you to consider. Unfortunately, I've seen, for several, probably 3 decades, sometimes petitioners will come in and ask for a variance, and the more substantial the variance, the greater the potential risk is for changes in use of a facility down the road. And again, it's, the likelihood of this changing may be low.
Wouldn't they have to come in for a variation at that time, though?
Well, they probably would, but then you've got an existing building, you've got an existing parking lot, and oftentimes the new use they come in goes back to the reason we have these higher standards. And that's what I wanted to point out. I've seen on one hand, I think, a number of times where the change, and again, we can never have 100% certainty that this company is going to be here 5 years, 10 years, 15 years. But if it was to change, then the city is faced, and probably this board is faced, well, you've already got a building. You've already got this lower limit of stalls. You want to see a use in there, but sometimes that new use with limited parking stalls can really pose a nuisance or a problem for the surrounding property owners, who will oftentimes come forward to you and say, wait a minute, we complied. We put in the necessary parking. Now, you have a situation, you want to reuse this, but why in the world didn't you see and mandate that they at least provide for the unexpected? And the unexpected could be a change in use. So it does happen. Fortunately, it's infrequent. But, as I look at this, and probably any case too, is what more can the applicant do, if anything? Is there any way for them to acquire a little bit more land, either to the north or to the east here, to try and narrow that gap between the minimum requirement and what they're asking? But again, bottom line, I just want to point out that I've seen with a low risk of a change in use, sometimes the problems are compounded because the new uses can easily require a lot more in the way of parking, hence the need to look at the surrounding businesses and see could that possibility be something we would be prepared for. So it's just some caution and some comments, just wanted to share on personal experience as a city manager in many different communities, just something for the board to consider as you reach your decision. So with that, thank you very much.
Thank you. Mr. Murphy?
Quick rebuttal. Find myself following a church and following now a city manager expressing concerns. First, as the manager has indicated, in this particular case, that is a remote possibility. DeVita is the big boy in this business. The state has said that there is an acute need for this service at this location, and with our aging population, I would bet my money, I think anybody would be making a good bet that this place is going to stay for 15 years. That's number one. Mr. Haynes has been at this 45 years. He understands that, or he focuses his market on renting to national tenants only, companies with the staying power. That's second. Third, although we live in the world of regulation, I think it's reasonable to trust the market, that a facility that may need more spaces, and we'll decide, well, this one's underparked. We're not gonna rent this if DeVita leaves after 15 or 20 or 25 years. Finally, we concur with the chairman's remark, and we will make it a matter of the public record that this variation granted will not allow us to substitute a DeVita or substitute a traditional doctor's office clinic for DeVita. You know, from our view, the flaw may be in the ordinance and not in our use. But I think the comments by the manager, I hope they weren't, when they were just simply food for thought, hope they weren't more than that. But we think that we've established the need for this variation. We are committing to you now, and you can add that as a condition to the approval, that should this tenant leave, we will have to obtain a variation for whatever use comes in on the
That would be
ordinance.
required regardless.
Regardless, but when I've got a 24-karat gold tenant in a growth business, unfortunately, and a 15 to 30-year lease, I think the staff concern is remote and largely hypothetical. Thank
Is
you.
it 15 or is it 30? You had mentioned 30 earlier, now you're saying 15, or,
It's 15, and they, meaning DeVita, have 3 5-year options.
I see, okay.
So minimum 15, max under the
All
current
right, in
lease.
50, all right, so minimum of 15. If you're correct, which I believe you are, the need is there, but the need grows, and you outgrow this, there's no room to expand, then it's very possible that in 15 years, you would have to leave and build another facility, correct?
Well, a couple things. It is not easy to obtain a permit from the state. When you say we, we're the landlord. DeVita's the tenant. These state permits are hard to get. So I don't see a company like DeVita, walking away because there's a need here. So I don't think that's, realistically going to happen. If this building is self-contained, by that I mean there's only going to be 12, period. That's the design. And let me just also point out, maybe this will help clarify things in terms of the limitation. Do you have in your materials, the supplementary exhibits which is the state approval.
No, is it on?
Not in this,
I've
but
seen them. I
we
got-
received them on
I had them emailed to me.
It's in the packet I gave you because it's very important. You'll see on what I've called Exhibit 1, which are the proceedings from the state, the application that was approved by the state, which is on page 3 with those on the lower right-hand corner, is for a, quote, 12-station, close quote, facility. So that's the scope of the approval. So this building can't expand for that. And I guess the other thing is if what we are reading in the paper and hearing on social media is even 50% accurate, we are all going to be transported in driverless vehicles that will take us, drop us off,
You're wrong
and go
about
on their
that.
way. You know, it's only 15 years, but that's where it sounds like things are going. So just like it's hard to predict the future of a business 15 years from now, it's hard to predict in today's world the future of transportation. Thank you.
There's no one in the audience to speak in favor. There's no one in the audience opposed. Chair closes petition to the floor and asks the board for discussion and a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I would move for approval. Very seldom do I go against the advice of city staff, but in this case, I feel the need outweighs the risk. And I would encourage buying more property if possible in the future. And that's just an encouragement, but it's cutting it very close, very close. And Mr. Murphy, you're good, okay? But I move for approval.
Do we have a second?
I second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the petition. Call the roll, please.
Mr. Thompson?
Aye.
Mr. Graham?
Aye.
Ms. Powers?
Aye.
Mr. Riggs?
Aye.
Mr. Hennessy?
Murphy's Law did not prevail, but Mr. Murphy did. I vote aye.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Under new business, no public hearing. There is nothing. Under old business, under public hearing, nothing here. Under old business, no public hearing. Nothing. Under public comments, anyone wishing to speak? That being, a motion to adjourn would be in order.
One announcement,
Okay.
sorry. Under announcements, just a point of business. There is going to be a notice of meeting cancellation for your July 19th meeting.
Yeah, we're not going to have one, all right?
We have, you're right, I just wanted to make it on the record in case anybody is watching. No meeting, and that will be posted shortly, but that's due to no cases coming in during the last cycle.
Okay, I don't know if you were here when we were discussing Mr. Ferguson maybe going into the hospital tomorrow, simply as a precaution. He's had some problems there, pneumonia setting in. So,
Okay,
let's all give a prayer for Billy.
absolutely, thank you.
Okay, motion to adjourn would be in order.
So moved.
We have a second?
Second.
Call the roll.
Mr. Ferguson? Oh, Mr. Graham?
Yes. Aye.
Ms. Powers? Mr. Riggs?
Aye.
Mr. Thompson?
Aye.
Mr. Hennessy?
Aye.
So, I don't see them on.
The city manager.
Yeah.
Actually, it was improper for him to do that.
Yeah, I believe my email down.